know you have all heard of the movie Sound of Freedom, and I know some of you have already watched it, but have you ever wondered how sex trafficking even starts? When I watched the movie Sound of Freedom, it really brought my awareness to sex trafficking. Even though I knew the seriousness of it, I never knew the finer and extreme details. Did you know you're very likely in this world to come across someone that is a victim of sex trafficking? It could be of a friend, a coworker, a family member, or even a complete stranger. I want to talk about the 5 stages of sex trafficking to help recognize when someone is currently a victim and someone being lured into becoming a victim. The 5 stages of sex trafficking are important and effective for bringing awareness and to lead to the detection of sex trafficking, to build support for governments and communities to act and to prevent sex trafficking. Let's begin with our very first stage, luring. Luring is to tempt the vulnerable to do something or go somewhere, especially by offering some type of reward. They first choose a victim that has an unstable living situation, and then they convince the victim that they are the special one and that nobody will understand them at all. And they continue to convince the victim that they are a family or a team. They also promise children a better life or even an education. For example, on Daily Reporter, a woman named Heather Marvilla shared her story about being a victim of sex trafficking for 12 years. She went on to say, a young person will run into someone willing to take them someplace else. A child just wants someone to listen to them, and they're willing to listen, but are their intentions good? With that, it leads us to our second stage, which is grooming and gaming. Grooming and gaming is when a trafficker seeks to build an emotional connection with a victim to gain their trust for sexual purposes. This is also considered the honeymoon stage. The trafficker will do anything to make the potential victim fall in love with them, or they even show off a mom or dad complex. Often when a victim is emotionally attached to someone, they usually do things they wouldn't normally do. The trafficker will assess the victim's needs like money, clothes, jewelry, and even a titled relationship. And this leads us to coercion and manipulation. Coercion and manipulation is to compel by force, intimidation, or authority, especially without the regard for victim's desire or violation. Traffickers employ a variety of tactics, but the most common include physical and emotional abuse, threats, isolation from family and friends, and physical restraints. Mental manipulation, document classification, shame, fear, including threats to share information or pictures with others or authorities. And with that, it leads us to exploitation. Exploitation is when the victim is deceived or forced to take part in sexual activity. The abuse of a position of vulnerability, different power, or trust to profit monetarily, socially, or politically from the commercial sex work of another. While the best known form of human exploitation, hundreds of thousands of victims are trafficked for the purpose of forced labor, domestic servitude, child begging, or the removal of their organs. There's a story of a man named James Evan, and he worked with Polaris on getting his survivor story out there. He went on to say, "It never crossed my mind that I was being used as bait. Having unprotected sex with countless men for his profit." James thought he was in control, and he thought his abuser was wanting and doing what was best for James. And with all of that trauma, imagine being put in a place for recruiting other victims. The recruitment stage. The recruitment stage is the harboring, transportation, and obtaining of a person for labor or services. Victims are forced to recruit, manage, and discipline other victims. Victims are usually forced to pull in friends with similar living situations or other emotional neglect. As of 2023, Interpol stated over 4.5 million people throughout the world are victims of sex trafficking. Interpol also stated in South and Central America, more than 2,700 victims were and still are being rescued from sex trafficking. 134 arrests and the dismantling of 6 organized crime networks and counting. Given the information today, you have more of an idea of what sex trafficking actually looks like on a day-to-day basis through an untrained eye. If you know someone being victimized or you are this victim, please get help. Please contact the national hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or email them at help@humantraffickinghotline.org. Thank you so much for your time.